Good afternoon and welcome to the Historic Preservation Commission's regular meeting for August 28th, 2024. We'll start with roll. Jim?
Lauren Flick,
Here.
Chris Jenkins,
Here.
Lester Lamone,
Here.
Mike Badone,
Here.
Rich Millard,
Here.
Jim Nelson here, Mildred Wentz.
Here.
Everyone has made it today. We will take a look at last month's minutes, and if you've had a chance to look them over, and if someone has anything they want to change, or if not, could we have a motion to approve the minutes of
So
the July
moved.
24th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Jim?
Lauren,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Jim, yes, Millie,
Yes.
The minutes have been approved. The fourth item on our agenda is a discussion of the development design guidelines. We held a meeting prior to this regular meeting to discuss that. And Lisa, do you have a summation?
Yes. So we met prior to this meeting, of course. We sent out a memo, the commission sent out a memo as what we talked about from the previous meeting to various different department heads regarding our process for developing a historic design guidelines. And we received 2, and I understand from this meeting, 3 that we reviewed, and the commission or the committee will review those further and try to address those going forward in the process in developing these guidelines. Another point that was brought up during the committee meeting was from Jim and talking about doing another demonstration workshop. Be working with him and hopefully scheduling one for this fall on winter weatherization. And our next meeting will hopefully be able to do an exercise that we had sort of tried to develop, but we haven't gotten to do quite yet. An exercise on reviewing potential application for a certificate of alteration or certificate of appropriateness. And we'll be scheduling that in 2 weeks' time, Wednesday, September 11th at 4 p.m. at the museum.
Thank you. Anyone want to add to what Lisa has presented us?
Mr. Chairman, I just for the record, in this forum, I'd like to say that myself and Jim are going to basically co-chair that continued effort with the intent to put schedule and agenda and structure to our process so that we can continue to keep up our momentum and make some forward progress.
I appreciate the both of you taking the lead on this. We are going to meet in 2 weeks, I believe, and sit down and discuss where we are and where we want to go. And I think I just want to add that, I think a lot of the discussions that we've had and some of the concerns that some of the people looking out on the outside looking in are a little concerned that we may make things a little more difficult for people, and that's certainly not our motivation. Our motivation is to save a fantastic downtown area and make things a little bit clearer for what's expected, and at the same time making sure we don't make it too expensive. I don't think any of us are going to have a whole lot of motivation to do that, because a busy downtown and a successful downtown is certainly a benefit to everybody in this community. And when you have a fantastic historic downtown, I think that our mission is really to do our part in saving that. So we're going to work at that very diligently, and hopefully we'll start to getting some things sewed together and make some recommendations and put together some of these ideas. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, we're going to move on to number 5, the referral agency review request form. Lester?
Sure. So there is a routing sheet that is part of the city's process that includes any project that moves through the city. All departments have the opportunity, and including intergovernmental departments or outside City Hall, has the opportunity to review the, I guess, what their particular department is assigned with in terms of understanding how it impacts the city. And so new projects and projects that are renovations or additions, alterations, things of that nature, whether they're planning or building in nature, doesn't really make a difference. So it just gets routed. So one of the things that we've run into and had a conversation with Lisa is petitioning the city to add historic preservation to that routing sheet. That way they're always kept current and up to date with everything that's moving through the city's agendas, so that if there's something that needs to be commented on, or if we need to affect that process in some way because of something that somebody may have missed on a different department, then that would be in our purview. So I think what I'd like to do is to just bring this issue to this commission's into their thoughts, and to gather ideas about whether or not you want to make a motion, or if anybody wants to make a motion to petition the city to add historic preservation formally to that routing sheet.
I think that's appropriate. I think that it will only apply to those that would be addressing historic structures. It's currently already required, but it's not on the routing sheet. So I think that's one of our concerns, is that just we want to make sure people are aware of it, and that and we're really good about getting back and getting those signed fairly quickly.
So currently, there is a spreadsheet that lists all the buildings within the historic district and outside the historic district that are have been designated as a historic landmark, whether through local registration, through the state registry, or the national. So there's already a spreadsheet available, and the building department has that. It's whether or not they can keep it up to date with anything that we add on as a commission.
So, and let me add just a little bit more context too. So the city very recently is adding an automated system inside their computer network that any project goes through the computer portal. So you get you log into the portal. As a designer, for example, I would log into the portal, set up a project in that portal, provide applications or design documents to that portal, and then depending on what the motivation is, whether it's a building project or a planning project, it would go to that particular department first. But again, part of this is an automated process, or getting it out of the paper realm and into the automated realm. And so one would think that adding historic preservation as one of the email addresses to Lisa's office would be an appropriate and easy thing to do. But again, just making sure that there's notification and there's documents available so that if action's needed, then action can be taken.
Do we have a motion to ask the city? Is that what we're asking? Is a motion to ask the city to add us to the referral agency review request form, or the digital version of that, if appropriate? Is that what we're looking for, as a motion in that context?
I would think that would be an appropriate action, yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So I'll move that we formally request that historic preservation be added to the routing sheet.
We have a second?
Second.
Jim?
Laura?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Millie?
Yes.
Okay, Lisa, I think, could you relay that to the appropriate people, and we'll see if we can't get added to the referral agency review request form. We also have another item, a potential motion to approve the proposed budget request for 2025. Do we still need to do that, Lisa?
I think we did that last time.
We did that last time.
Okay, I'm just reading this cheat sheet you gave me, and
Oh.
it's still on there, so.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay.
We can approve it again.
We're really approving.
Yes. Let's move on to announcements. Lisa?
So there's only one upcoming training opportunity. It's the Saving Places on the Road workshop, September 7th through the 8th in Steamboat Springs. And the last day to register for this is this Friday. And you can, if you're interested, or you're interested in learning more about it, it's through the Colorado Preservation, Inc.
And their website is that exactly, or do you know?
Pretty close,
Okay.
yes. Yep. That's all the upcoming ones through History Colorado and Colorado Preservation, Inc.
Okay, I think we are, do we have any discussion, board members, anything, Amy, you would like to add today? You always have something to add.
I always have something to add. I did just want to talk briefly about New Method and where that currently stands, but I am suspecting that perhaps that is why Rick is here as well.
Well, I'm always here, but yeah. I do have information on that. Did you receive an email from Leo today?
I was at a meeting.
That's what I thought. New Method is, we're considering it about 50% demolished. The stage we're in right now is shoring up the side walls before we continue the demolition. And the Public Works Director sent Lisa an email today that shows that the treatment of the walls, and Mr. Madone has been part of those conversations as well. We don't have, I reviewed the memorandum of agreement between the EPA and the State Historic Preservation Office and us as third parties. And it says that the city needs to consult with the commission on the treatment of the walls, the exterior treatment of the walls. It doesn't say that the commission needs to vote on it, so it's a little gray area there, but Leo sent Lisa an email today that has the drawings with the treatment plan. So I'd recommend distributing that. And can't really make any kind of a motion right now on it because you don't have it in front of you. But the plan is to, like I said, shore it up, and that basically means pouring concrete footings. When were you all in the building? The back east wall, the back of the east wall had a concrete footing poured, and then about a concrete wall, about 3 feet up from the floor. The entire east wall will have that continued up to the front of it. And then ultimately it will be treated, I believe, and I wasn't part of these meetings, but I believe with stucco after demolition, because we still have to get the rest of the building down. The facade they're projecting that the stucco will be removed from the facade next week, sometime next week. They're at about a 2-week standstill right now because they need to work out maintenance agreements with the neighboring property owners to determine who and when has control of the walls. So the facade will, I believe, the stucco will come down next week or shortly thereafter. I wasn't given a firm date, in order to get some documentation, some photos of the original facade. And I know Leo will keep Lisa informed of that as well. And then the sign itself, the business used to be owned by the Stately family, and Denny Stately has requested the New Method sign. So once it's down, we will honor him with his request and give him the New Method sign so he can take it home. He'll bring a trailer to do that, but we'll just, hopefully, we don't even know if it'll come down in one piece, honestly, but we'll do the best we can to get it down, or the contractors will do the best we can. That's where we are. They've made really good progress. They, of course, are demolition contractors, and they just want to tear this thing down as fast as they possibly can. They don't want to wait for contracts to be signed with neighboring property owners or anything like that, or the concrete guys. But they're making really good progress. They're being very careful about it, which is really nice. They're being very clean about it, which is really nice. So all in all, things are going very, very well. We anticipate it down in September. We anticipate then the floor being taken out probably late September, and the assessment contractors for the targeted brownfield assessment to come in October, middle of October, to do their three or so monitoring wells that they need to do to assess the contamination of the source. So moving along, you should see it. You should get an email soon with the drawings of the proposed fixes, I guess you could say, stabilization, exterior surfacing of the wall.
Is this something they need a decision on fairly quickly?
I don't. Yeah, I guess you could say that they do. I don't know I don't know what the timing is actually of applying the stucco. I haven't been part of those conversations, so I don't think it necessarily has to be right now. And like I said, the MOA doesn't specify that the commission has to approve. It's just the city has to consult with the commission. I don't really know how that's going to be interpreted by everybody. But he has begun the initiation of getting a run of consulting anyway. And like I said, Mike's been part of it, so he's pretty aware of what's going on as well. But can't answer that question. That's a really roundabout way of saying, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's just that we don't meet for another month.
I know. I
don't want to hold things up if we don't have to, so.
Yeah, unless there's a need for a special meeting, I guess we'll have to figure that out. I don't know. The agreement didn't make it firm to me. I think I probably need to have a conversation with our EPA contractor to figure that, or our EPA rep to find that out.
Well, and I think to that point, if commissioners, either individually or collectively, if enough individual commissioners have concerns with the proposal, I would certainly want those concerns to be relayed to Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are sufficient concerns, it may be worthy of a special meeting, because I know certainly from my perspective as the city council liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, certainly want to hear if there are any concerns that arise based on that plan.
So I received the email also with the proposed treatment, and I don't know, a month or so ago, I met over there on site with the contractor, with the mason they hired, and they were very receptive to my recommendations. The biggest one was talking about stucco, and in the drawings it does refer to the coating as stucco. What I stressed is using a exterior grade high line plaster that's going to be more breathable. And Leo actually mentioned that in the email, that actual material hasn't been decided on yet. It does just say stucco, but I've looked over the drawings basically as soon as I got here for about 3.5 minutes. So it looks like they're following the recommendations I gave, outside of clarifying what that treatment is going to be. But yeah, I think we should distribute this to everyone, and after I have more time to look at it too, I may have something else to say. But It appears that they were very receptive to my recommendations, and talked to the mason who they hired, and he's a competitor of mine, but very qualified and knows what he's talking about, and was also very receptive, so.
I guess the thing that I want to point out the most is that the, needs to be consistent with the Secretary of the Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. That's spelled out in the MOA. It doesn't say that the commission needs to approve, we need to consult the commission, yes, but that's really the only specification, is that treatment of historic properties.
And that's where the high lime exterior grade plaster comes in. It actually clarifies in the standards that just covering up brick with stucco instead of trying to repair it or treat it properly is not recommended. The main brick wall that butts up to, it'd be the north side, or no? East side.
The east side?
All of that has a plaster on it, which they're talking about removing. So I think replacing in kind with more of an exterior grade plaster that's breathable would be good. Is it the Garden Park School Adobe
Yeah.
building? I've looked it up. It was funded through the State Historic Fund to be stuccoed. So I think for the Adobe side, with that precedent, would be an appropriate treatment. But for the brick itself, I think it needs to be a more breathable.
Please explain
product.
to us what that product is. I'm not familiar with it. So obviously it's weather tight, but it's breathable. That sounds contradictory.
Right. It's. So I recommended some products, and there's actually a company in Durango that could be a consultant that works with Highline Plasters. I can't remember the name of their line of products off the top of my head. But basically, a more modern stucco is going to have a higher Portland content, which is going to make it stronger, a higher compressive strength, and more waterproof. We want it to be water resistant, but when it becomes waterproof, any moisture that would get into that brick wall becomes trapped. It can't get out, and then you start seeing bigger chunks popping off and pulling off the faces of the brick. So basically having a higher lime to Portland content product is still going to be durable, but will also let that wall breathe.
That was my only question. Anybody else?
I have a couple. Rick, is there a design professional overseeing the stucco and its specification and inspecting it, or how is that working?
I don't have knowledge of that. I don't know. It'd be a Leo Evans question. Public Works.
They do have an engineer that they're working with.
Uh-huh.
And he was one I kept talking to. He kept talking about shotcrete, just shotcreting the wall. Which is very, very strong. Yeah, would
Sounds
be good.
fun.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so they do have an engineer involved.
But is the engineer actually specifying the stucco, or is he the structural engineer?
I'd say he's more of a structural
I don't,
engineer.
yeah, I don't know that we have an answer to that right now.
Okay. But it seems like there should be some level of somebody approving, quote unquote, approving what's being done and putting a stamp on it and standing behind its performance, rather than sort of an ad hoc committee meeting out there doing what they think is a great idea. But I was just curious who in the end is approving all this.
I think ultimately it's going to be Leo Evans, Public Works Director. I think when
So
it
it's
comes
a
down
city
to the
official that's
surface.
approving all of this.
I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe the city official will. The contractors are granted, we had to have an engineer with the demo contractors because we needed it engineered, but I don't know that there's anybody specifically specifying the product except probably the city through this process. Don't hold me to that 100% because you know,
There is such a person. At the last convention, one of the last presentation was just on this subject, mortar and stucco, et cetera, over masonry. It was these terms you used, I recognized from having gone through that seminar. The man's name is listed from whoever gave that presentation, most knowledgeable. And what you have just, I recognize the terms that you used from that.
And that was through the webinars for History Colorado?
It was the one that we attended online. It was the
Okay.
big one.
Yeah, that may be the same gentleman. I passed their information forward. I met him at the Saving Places conference.
Yes.
And he does a lot of plastering and also is a rep for some of these products.
And he had quite a background for historic preservation buildings in his resume. The different types. The most knowledgeable presentation I'd ever seen on the subject.
I guess if I had a recommendation, I would recommend that the commission have Mike draft a letter, an email or a letter to Leo, officially codifying your suggestions, and at least see where it goes. That kind of gives, that gives somewhat of a direction anyway to Leo, and provided they go that direction, then it would be considered, I guess you could call it an approval, but certainly a consultation with the commission. But the only thing that, like I said, the only concern I have is that it meets the treatment of historic properties requirements. We don't want to do something that doesn't, because the MOA will be violated, you know? We don't want to do that. So I guess that would be my recommendation. It doesn't necessarily then require a special meeting, but if there was the need, if others reviewed the drawings and really had some significant concerns, then maybe we can call for a special meeting or something.
So I will forward out this email to all of you. You can respond back to it with any questions or concerns after reviewing all of those. If there are some major concerns regarding the email that I send out, we can talk about scheduling a special meeting if you wanted. Otherwise, I can coalesce all your responses into an email to Leo.
And Chris, I got one more, if that's okay.
Certainly.
Rick, you said they're going to start potentially demolishing or at least starting to take off the stucco on that masonry wall on the front next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm told possibly next week.
Are they going to try to save the stone wall temporarily while they unpeel the stucco off it, or is it all coming down at once?
Well, you know, they're going to try to save it to get photos of it.
Okay, and
There's
who's
no
gonna,
guarantee.
who's going to take those photos? Okay.
I will.
And is that the?
I'll be there to take photos too.
Is that the extent of our historic commission's documentation, is photos by Lisa? Is that going to be all that's done to try to understand what was there?
From what I understand, they are going to take a look at it to see what it would cost to structurally save it. But that doesn't happen until they get further along. They
Okay,
get
so that's
within
still on the
X
table.
amount
I
of
didn't
feet.
know where we'd left it.
Still on the
There's
table,
still
at
gonna be
least to
attempt
figure out
try
what it's
to
going to
do something
cost.
Other than just tear it down.
Yeah, nothing's been budgeted for it, but
Okay, and that starts next week.
potentially, yeah. Yeah, again, I'm given passing information as
So I imagine, just
go
out of
by.
curiosity, if you want to go by and see this, you'd expect to see some scaffold being put up in front before they
Yeah,
start doing this?
yeah, and that's why they didn't do it initially, because it would have blocked the right-of-way for the
Okay.
entire project.
All right,
That
thank
would
you.
have been a problem, and parking. And parking is a very touchy subject downtown, so.
Any additional questions or concerns that we need to address now? I think I would like to see some information on that particular product. I'm going to guess, Mike, that they're putting some kind of metal flashing on the top to keep the water from coming down beside it, but I don't know why plaster
show
just
that.
makes me nervous. Longevity is what I would think is what pops in my mind. I mean, we don't want to approve something that starts falling off after a year and a half, or, 5 years, or even 10, but I don't know the product, and so if you could provide some of that information to me to where I can at least take a look at it. And also, if you would put into a short letter or email, as Rick suggested, that with your recommendations, we can all look at that and at the same time discuss our feelings about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Anything else?
Well, I'd like to make one comment before we conclude this agenda topic, and that is, I don't think the commission's being tasked with approving a product or even a process as much as they're being tasked with understanding what the National Park Service allows in this kind of circumstance, and that making sure that that particular information, whether it comes from History Colorado or whether it comes from the National Park Service itself, is being made available to whomever is responsible for that exterior, because we're not responsible for the exterior, we're responsible for compliance for everyone else who is responsible for that exterior. So I think it's beneficial if we know what that is and what it's going to look like and what it's going to do. But again, I think that I think we have to be careful saying whether we approve the product or not. We're approving that. We're verifying that the National Park Service approves. So that would be my comment.
Anything additional? Okay. Shall we move on to public comments? Anyone in the public? Amy, I'm sorry. Sometimes you have 2 or 3 things. Just figured I'd better go back and double check.
Oh, thank you so much. No, that was my, at the top of my list for
Okay.
the past month. Thanks.
And I just want to say we appreciate you and your participation. It's always good for somebody from the city to join us and let us know how things are going on your end.
Absolutely, and just thank you all so much for the service that you do, and thanks to Commissioner Lamone in particular for wanting to ensure that our city processes include the Historic Preservation Commission in those referral agency review requests. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I guess future, and probably in consideration of the coating on the wall, the city's I mentioned the agreements with the adjacent property owners. After, and I haven't seen the final draft of the agreements, but after a warranty period, you could say, of the work that is done on the walls, the walls will become the property of and responsibility of the adjacent property owners. The original agreement didn't have that warranty period in there, but I asked that it have it, consideration of the property owners, because what if the contractor leaves and something happens and then they're all of a sudden immediately responsible for it? So they added the warranty period, whatever that period is, I'm not certain. But just so you're a little bit more aware of the context behind the longer term impacts of what goes on the wall, it will be the property owner's responsibility afterward. It won't be the city's responsibility any longer. It's just more of a bigger picture awareness comment.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any public comments? Aaron, you have anything you'd like to add today? Okay. If that is everything we have on our agenda, I will adjourn, and our next regular meeting is Wednesday, September 25th at 4 p.m. And just a reminder that in 2 weeks at 4 p.m. at the museum, we will have a committee meeting to further discuss the development of design guidelines. With that, the meeting's adjourned.